Life TV. My guest today is a very interesting person. I can't wait till you get to hear from her. But before I bring her up, I am going to introduce her to all of you. Shawn Brown was the fourth born child into what society would consider the stereotypical Black female. She was raised in the middle class suburban area into a military family who lived in a predominantly white neighborhood. They were the only blacks in the neighborhood. Shawn says her father was a great provider materialistically. However, her parents were negligent drunkards who loved to party. So they were rarely home. Shawn's sisters and brothers were the ones who raised her, though. And of course, Shawn took full advantage of that and got into things that caused her parents great embarrassment. Welcome, Shawn. Thank you for agreeing to be here to share your life with us. How are you today?
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thank you for letting me come and share my empowerment. I appreciate that, Marvina, very much.
Okay, thank you, Hans. You're quite welcome. So, I feel like the first thing I would like for you to speak on is I love the term you used. You lived the gilded cage.
Hmm.
So your family appeared to be like the Cosbys, and
Yeah.
however, they were very much dysfunctional. Please, could you explain what was so dysfunctional about your family?
Well, when I say the gilded cage, we appear to have the American dream for a black family. The home, the nice home in suburbia. My father was a provider. He was in the military. Most of his life, he retired from the military. When he retired from the military, he became an over-the-road truck driver. So we never had a need. Our house was always beautiful. Had clothes, food. We were provided for. The
Right.
nicest cars. He would get new cars, Lincolns, every year. So
Okay.
the outward appearance is we were middle class,
Right.
upper middle class.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. My mom was able to stay home and be a nurturer for most of her life.
And,
So,
and that's unusual for the average black family back in the day you were born or we were born.
right. Keeping in mind, my parents were born in 1941 and 1942. God bless them. They're still alive. So they're in their 80s now.
Right.
Been
That's
married 60 years. So, again, it's the normal intact marriage, have mother and father in the home. I have three other siblings, an older brother and two older sisters. So it's a family of six, and it was an intact family.
nice, nice. So now, looking at your family compared to what let's say my family back in that day was total opposite. We were poor, raised by a single mom, barely was making it on welfare and everything. So I am glad you're pointing this out because that was my life, my world. Many of the people I know have that same born into poverty lifestyle as blacks, period. Male, female, doesn't matter what. So now tell us what was so dysfunctional about your family.
My mom and dad loved the party, and it didn't come from them. That wasn't the root. It started way back. That's who we are. That's who I am. That's what I do. Still love to party, have a good time. If I'm not working hard, we have a good time. I'm a product of my environment.
Okay.
And so every weekend, if my father was in town, he was in the military, but if he was in town, him and mom were out, or they're drinking at home, or their friends are coming to the home. It's always a party going on.
Right. So then you were kind of taken care of by your sisters and brother.
Pretty much, yeah, because we had standards and we had rules. Again, I'm a child of the 60s. So I came up in the 70s and 80s. So again, when the company's over, children are to be seen or heard. But since I had older siblings, my brother and my sister, they were always in charge of me and my middle sister. So no matter what, I'm under their supervision. who they are basically 5 and 6 years older than me.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, I'm just interested when you say you felt you were neglected. How did that feel?
Well, I didn't know at the time. I
Right.
didn't know I was neglected at the time because
Okay.
you don't know dysfunction until you go into someone else's environment,
Gotcha.
especially as a kid. You don't know, you know. But then that insightfulness didn't come until I became a mother.
Okay.
Okay,
Makes sense.
because again, I'm the baby of the family. My sisters and brothers took good care of me, and my
Okay.
middle sister was my playmate. So I
Right.
was good. I didn't understand the dysfunction until later
Okay.
as an adult, looking back, because whatever childhood trauma we have is going to be reflected in your behavior and your relationships as you become an adult. Because as you
Absolutely.
start to go through it, it begins through puberty and being a teenager and getting into relationships. And so the first neglect that I seen, I didn't have a father figure, although my father was in home.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
He did not show me what a man was supposed to be. I wasn't daddy's girls. None of us were. We didn't get the feeling of, we felt more like he had us but didn't love us, or it wasn't something I got to provide for him, his
Mm-hmm.
responsibility, but not something that he needed to nurture and love and bond with, and protect his daughters from, and be that standard of what a man should be.
Okay.
He was not
Makes sense.
there because he was drunk and he was a womanizer.
Mm.
That was um my standard and my first impression of a man.
Okay. Your dad, which is
Yeah,
always when the dad is in the home,
yeah.
that's the
And
first impression.
also he was the enforcer. So we're
Mm.
always home with my mother, the homemaker, the nurturer. But then when he comes home, after he come home from drinking a womanizer and want to terrorize the family, then we're subjected to that. So that was
Mm.
neglectful on that part, and it was neglectful on my mother for failing to protect us from that all of our childhood. And she's still
Okay.
with them. Like I said, they've been married over 60 years. My parents are 80s. They got married at 15 and 16.
Okay. So
So that
now
was what I seen.
okay. And so it's pretty much sounding like you saying they were there mostly to punish you because you did say your dad was abusive. So you remember more being punished than
My
being shown
father,
love.
my father.
Okay. Your father. It was
Yes.
more like you were being punished as opposed
He
to
was a
showing love.
provider. He was
Okay.
a provider, and he was the punisher. And
Got
we were the target of his anger or displeasure.
okay. Got you. So now let's go on to when you got into high school.
Hmm.
Now, the thing that stood out for me in your story was the fact that you, for one, being raised in a middle class and family who looked normal. Because when you first told me about your teenage years, um, you were smart, you were very intelligent. However, you made some bad decisions. Um, can you tell us a little bit about that decision you felt that wasn't a smart one?
Sure. At the time, I believe I was making decisions out of wanting to be loved. Um, my first boyfriend, my first love, my first husband, my children's father, was my first experience of a man telling me he loved me. And I thought, and he was a man because I was 16 and he was 21.
Wow. So basically that's
Now,
considered that was considered statutory rape back in
it
that
still is. It's
day? It
even worse
still is.
now.
Okay.
It's even worse now. But again, we got to look back at, again, I'm a child of my parents, 45th in the 40s. They got married 15, 16. This is not outside the norm of people getting married young. Again, this is what I saw.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
And again, I was intelligent. I was smart for my age.
Okay.
Okay, a gift that I didn't know, but I understand now is because I was able to graduate early. So, and I never had a discussion with him at first. We never talked about age,
Okay.
and I was always being called grown or fancy pantsy or prissy, because I
Hmm.
wanted to be my older sister. She was
Right.
the one I was always under her supervision. So as me as a young child, I wanted to be her. And
Okay.
so I grew up too early, and I love to wear my dresses. I love to be a girl, and I wanted to be my older sister. And so when I met this young man, skating was the thing, under the supervision of my siblings who are doing their dating and mingling, and I met
Hmm.
him, and this was my first boyfriend, my first love,
Okay.
not understanding that this was a 21-year-old man. What is he doing with a 16-year-old? I didn't understand that until my older sister met him.
Okay.
And then that caused a rift between us because I'm like, what do you mean? Because for a 16-year-old, the cool thing then in high school was to get a college guy. I mean, an
Yeah.
older guy. I mean, if you are a young girl, a teenager, and you get the older guy, the senior, that,
Yeah. I
I
agree.
didn't see it as, that's what I attracted. So
Right.
not understanding that until it was my 16th birthday, and my girlfriend ran down the hill and she's like, sweet 16, sweet 16. And my boyfriend says, what? And it was shocking. Like, that was the first conversation we had about age.
Wow.
And
Wow.
he was like, I'm a cradle robber. And I'm like, what? And my feelings was hurt because he's just like, I just gotta go. I just gotta go. I wasn't able to process. I didn't understand, that was
Right.
my first love and my first heartbreak, or what's wrong with me? You know,
Mm.
and the first
Yeah.
fear of rejection. Are you not gonna love me anymore because
Because of your age.
16? But what does that have to do with anything?
Right.
That was
Right.
my part and my choice in it. I wasn't a victim or felt like I was being preyed upon, or it was never that feeling. I think it was, as we'll go move forward, his delayed progression as a man and my higher intelligence as a young woman. Until
Okay.
this day we
Right.
were equal, but then eventually what led to our divorces, I outgrew him, and he was still the same. That man
Right.
that he was then, that's who he was. So
Okay. So I want to go back to what you were saying as far as that was the thing to be when you were this teenager at the age of 16, or any teenager with this older man. So of course he's most likely has his own car and things like that. So that's really one of the teen dreams, to be seen with an older
oh
dude
yeah, yeah,
driving that car. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
now what I wanted to add in, one thing that I really love, that is a quote that me and you discussed, was, as teens, we think we're living the fairy tale life of being rescued by a knight in shining armor.
Right.
But is the prince actually the hidden villain? So now
Right.
your story is definitely going to bring out the rest of this chaos, which I am just ecstatic for everybody to hear, because we never know who is listening, who may be going through what you have already experienced. And like you said, when you're in a dysfunctional family and you're not shown what love properly is, you're going to find that in the least appealing places. Even though
Mm-hmm.
it looks good in the beginning, it really is something to say, wait a minute, what's really happening here?
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mm-hmm.
fact that he was 21 and you were underage, basically he could have been, if somebody had reported it, gone to jail for a crime committed, which is statutory rape, for those who don't know, for underage persons to be dating I guess, legally aged person, so to speak. So now
And if
I'm
I
just,
could just,
go
oh,
ahead. No, go ahead.
And I just wanted to add on that to now, like you're saying now is statutory rape, because under a person under 16 cannot consent no matter what, just like you can't contract. And
Right.
now it's called the Romeo and Juliet law. And when I
Okay.
was working on and doing juvenile and criminal, it would trip me out because I would have cases where an 18-year-old boy was with a 15-year-old girl. And I was like, oh man, that was me. Could have
Wow.
been me. So that's how
Yeah.
I'm able to relate to my clients now, which we'll get on later. But go ahead.
Right.
Go
Right.
ahead.
Yep. You're going ahead of us. Okay.
Right.
So now, because you didn't have the concept of love, you felt like your boyfriend, your knight in shining armor, rescued you.
Hmm.
So now, from there, what happened? You fell in love, and you, of course, had sex with the man. And we know what happened, and or could happen when that happens. So you ended up getting pregnant, and nobody knew for a while. Tell us how it got found out.
Okay. Well, like I said, this was my first love. This was, my children's father. Um, because of my intelligence, I graduated with the class of 1984.
Okay.
I had always excelled in school. It came easy to me. So I was able to graduate in 1983 if I wanted to.
Okay.
So I was like, no, how it is in high school. I want to graduate my class. Everybody I've been going to high school with, and this is my class.
Mm-hmm.
So I was offered at this time, again, living in white suburbia. Okay. I
Right.
was offered to go to, it was called Raytown Vocational Technical School, where you can go and learn a skill. You could learn to be a mechanic, or, and I went for cosmetology.
Okay.
That's what I did for my senior year of school. Okay, so I went
Mm.
to cosmetology school, which was basically an hour away from where we lived. There's no school bus or anything that could take me. And this had to be with the consent of my parents, which at that time, everybody, oh, good job, so smart. Woo, woo, woo. Now you get to be a cosmetologist too. Yeah, yeah, we could do that, right?
Right.
Okay, so when first day of school started coming, or it's like, how am I going to get there?
Right.
Want to, because it's still 8 hours a day. I got to get $2,500 worth of cosmetology hours. It's like clocking in, clocking out, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
got to go an hour away. How am
Right.
I going to get there? Again, with the neglectful parents, they didn't offer to buy me a car, give me a car. They had brand new cars sitting outside. My mother's afraid to drive, so I could have driven their cars, but nope, not their cars. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
When I say my sisters take care of me, my middle sister's always been great at money, having cars. That's our thing. We like cars too. So for a
Right.
while, when she could, she would take me out there or pick me up. But
Okay.
how I really got attached and felt love from my children's father is because he had this car, 1964 cherry red Bel Air, was flashy. He was a mechanic in the cars, right? He lived in the hood. He lived about an hour away from me. He would come from the hood, cross all the highways to come out to suburbia, pick me up for school. He would then drive me an hour to the vocational tech school, or I would drive him to work, and then I would drive to school. And then after school, I would come back and pick him up from work. And that's how I got to school.
Mm.
And he's also 21. So he had the weed, he had the alcohol, he had the car, and he's showing me love. My father
Right.
never said he loved me, still to this
Right.
day.
Right. So he basically really showed up as your knight in shining
Yes,
armor.
yes, yes.
Yes. Okay.
But I didn't know he was a villain because he really had a lower level of intelligence for a 21-year-old that time. But had there been a man, a protector in my life, and my brother was gone, he was older, he was in the military. So I didn't have anyone to be able to say, this dude, what are you doing with this dude?
Right.
Until my
Right.
sister, my oldest sister, she was in the Air Force at this time, and she came back from basic training. That's when she met him. Like, and it was a fallout. Like, what you doing, my baby sister? What you
Right.
do? And I was like,
Yeah.
what? Right, but by this time it's too late. And then my
Exactly.
parents pretty much fed me to him by neglect, not even giving me transportation to go to better myself in cosmetology school.
Right. So that would be the normal choice, to turn to the person you can get the help from.
Right.
That would be obvious, right?
Right.
That
And in
normal.
all my gratitude, of course, I love him and I'm making love with him. And when I was
Right.
in love with him, this was my first love. He,
Exactly. Normal.
that's
Normal.
who I lost my virginity to.
Right. And that's
Mhm.
our teenage fantasy, to find that prince, or that Prince Charming, and you found him, and that's when you decided
Right.
this is the one. Now let's talk about when you got pregnant.
Okay.
How
So
did your
I'm in cosmetology school and we have to wear the white uniforms, basically nurses' uniforms, all in white. Okay. And so for 5 months, I'm going to school. He's taking me to school and whatever. So I'm coming home from school. I'm still in my uniform and I'm making me some French fries. And my mom had like a countertop in the kitchen. So I'm in the kitchen part and I'm peeling potatoes, getting ready to make some French fries. And she looked at me because I was like a size 5. I was always skinny. They used to call me Ethiopia kid. Didn't have any shape or anything.
okay?
And I have a stomach. So now she noticed at 5 months that all I have is this round belly. And she's like, "Are you pregnant?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then this big alligator tear just comes down her eye that I'll never forget. And I felt shame. I felt disgrace because I had older sisters. It wasn't that I didn't know about sex. It wasn't like I didn't know about birth control.
Right.
You know, I, it, but I, in that baby role and the
Hmm.
neglect role of not knowing what's going on and having
Right.
somebody to talk to or paying attention to what's going on with your daughter, I just did what I did.
Right.
You
Right
know,
now.
there's no
Okay.
other excuse. And yes, that was my poor judgment,
Hmm.
but I can't say I was in love at that time.
Right. So you basically, what any normal middle class or higher class family, or not even, don't have to even have a status, because I had situations in my lifetime back then where becoming a pregnant teen was an embarrassment to the family. A lot of even churches ostracized teens for not being married and before getting pregnant. So this was a
Hmm.
big deal. And, oh, sorry about this, especially back in that day. It was a big deal.
Hmm.
Um, but I want to go, let's go. I'm going to interrupt the story right here just to go over and look at some of the comments. Oh, we have Jolisa says, your hair is beautiful, Shawn. Looking gorgeous, ladies. Thank you,
Thank
Jolisa.
you.
Jolisa saying, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. Yes, because so many people definitely need to hear it, I'm sure. Oh, and then back to the statutory rape age. I just found out today in Oklahoma, 16 is the age now. That wowed me when I heard it. Yeah, see, a lot of people aren't even aware. And even if they are aware that that's against the law, they don't
Hmm.
care. Oftentimes they don't care because they found their knight in shining armor and they're in love. And
Hmm.
that's just the way you think as a teenager, basically,
Right, right.
and some adults. So I'm not even going to exclude that. But let's see. I'm gonna get another comment. Oh, she loves the quote. Joe loves the quote that I gave. I love that quote too. Let me go back and read that quote real quick. Let me find it. Let me find it. As teens, we think we're living the fairy tale life of being rescued by a knight in shining armor. But is the teen really a hidden villain? Yes, that I love that quote too.
Hmm.
But in Shawn's case today, we're gonna find out just who this teen, this Prince Charming was. Um, so Shawn, we got to the point where your mom found out you're pregnant, made you ashamed, made you feel ashamed. She was hurting, crying that you were pregnant. What happens after this? After she finds out, how does your life go from here?
Okay, so about the time she found out, I was showing, so it's about 5 months. And then graduation time, I finished cosmetology school. Graduation comes in May. I walk across the stage proudly with my belly and my cap and gown on because, I refuse to be a statistic.
Right.
It is what it is. I made my choice, whatever.
Right.
Um, so that was on Friday. On Saturday, I got married. I married my
Wow.
children's father. Now, looking back, I don't know if that was because he got trapped, but
Okay.
it was could have been a shotgun wedding. But basically, he did ask me to marry him after it was confirmed. I was pregnant, so
Okay.
it is what it is.
Right.
Again, back in the day, he did the right thing.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
that's good.
yeah.
That
So
was good.
we got married, and then we moved into his parents' home.
Okay, so on Friday you graduated, Saturday
Mhm.
you got married, and then on Sunday you moved into his parents' home.
Yes.
Wow. But didn't somebody have to sign for you to get married?
Yeah, my parents had to consent
Okay,
because
so
I
yeah,
was 17. I was
right.
17 when I got married and when I
Okay.
graduated. So I was
Okay.
still underage.
Okay. So
So they
they
had to
agreed to
consent.
it. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. And so now you moved in. Well, let's go back to the ordeal that happened when you wanted to, or when you actually get married. You were working, you made your own money, and then you had to pay for your own wedding.
Yeah, I had a little ghetto wedding, but it wasn't a ghetto, a little suburbia town ghetto, but it was ghetto because I paid like $500 and cooked a ham, and it was in my parents. They lived in a suburbia complex, and so there was a clubhouse that had the pool and the recreational area, or you could rent it out to have gatherings there. And
Okay.
so pretty much I had my wedding there. Um,
And you asked your
I
dad to
used
give you away, correct?
I did. I did. I asked my father to give me way, and I was shamed again. I pretty much messed up my life. wasn't going to be nothing because I was that intelligent child. Came easy for me. And then
Hmm.
when we get to the end again, now I see it was a dream deferred. I always knew I was supposed to be a lawyer. I always knew, but when I got pregnant and now I'm getting married, this is a dream deferred. Like I just messed up
Right.
my life. That's what
Okay.
I got from my father. And my
Okay.
mother, that tear was just like, dang,
Hmm.
no, and when I asked him to give me away, he let me know he was against it, and pretty
Right.
much, you know,
So you
that's
asked your, since
right.
he didn't give you away, that's
So,
correct.
well,
Your father didn't. Then
he said he would not give me away.
okay,
Okay, again, I
refused to give
wasn't
you.
daddy's girl, whatever. So again, you're not there for the typical daddy
Right.
role. You know what I mean? Your daughter walked me down the aisle. I got to come at, whatever.
Right. But you had but your brother was pretty good,
Yes. So
right?
I have my older brother. So he, like I said, he was in the military, and I believe he was in Korea at that time. So I asked him to come and walk me down the aisle, which he did. He flew into town. My father didn't know any. He didn't want any part of the wedding. He didn't
Right.
care, because he was just disgusted, just
Right.
disgusted, right? So he
Hmm.
didn't want any part. So I know I was sharing the details with my mom, and I had picked the tuxedo out for the groom. Pretty much the groomsmen and the groom were going to wear white and red tuxedos, red cummerbunds, and this is the 80s now, y'all, 84.
Yeah, remind
So
them of
you
the
got a
time.
red bow tie, right? Red and white people. Except he was going to have the tails. The groom was going to have the tails. Okay, so on the day of the wedding, I wore my sister's prom dress, my middle sister's prom dress that
Okay.
she had in the closet for a couple of years ago. Okay. But it just happened to be white, so it worked.
Right. Right.
We used my sister's because she was married at this time in the military. My middle sister, so she came in and we used her ring, her wedding ring. She took her ring off her finger for my groom to put it on my finger. And after the wedding, she like, "Give my ring back, girl."
I know that's right. So you guys were pretty
So then the
creative.
parents go, "Oh, this show is nice. Wish I have."
That's
Okay.
hilarious.
So, but the shocker was when the weddings get ready to start, my father, who's so disgusted and wouldn't walk me down the aisle, he shows up in the groom's tuxedo, the
Uh,
exact same one with the tails. Yes, he did.
wow.
And he got into a fight with my brother
The
to
brother
the
who was
point.
supposed to give you
My
away.
brother, who was supposed to give me away, who flew in from Korea, um, yeah, and just took over the wedding.
So he ended up
Um,
giving you away, your dad, after
Yeah,
all the
reluctantly, because
fussing.
it's like it was literally at time to walk down the aisle. Here he come, and I think he did that with the showboaty and the womanizing. My mom's family flew in, and so now you're ashamed. But I thought you were so disgusted you wouldn't give me away. But now, why are you here, becoming the show of the wedding? So
Wow.
again, that's the dysfunction and just I
Yeah.
I, I can't explain it. I know I would remember being upset about
Okay.
that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, after the wedding, next day moved into his parents' home.
Mm.
The next trauma, what I didn't realize is that my mother-in-law was stricken with cancer. Of course, they didn't tell me. Of course, I'm 17 years old and just married their 22 now year old son and moving into their home. Another sign of a trifling, didn't know.
Right.
Right. I'm moving in the hood. I'm coming from my gilded suburbia area and moving into the hood. So
That would
this
have been like a culture
was a
shock then,
shock.
huh?
Yeah, a culture
Wow.
shock. And not only that, his sister was in the military. She was 10 years older than him. So she was
Okay.
in her 30s and she had a 13-year-old. Well, at this time, they might have been 10 and 7-year-old that were living with his parents, their grandparents.
Okay.
And so when I move in that Sunday, within a week or so, his mom and his dad go to Fitzsimmons because he's retired military. She had
Hmm.
cancer. They go to Fitzsimmons in Kansas, and she never comes back home, well. The only time I really knew about her cancer was we went to visit her one time, and she had lost all of her. She was so frail and only had one tuft hair and just the skin and the bone, a horrible look of cancer, if you know what cancer
Hmm.
looked like.
Hmm.
So that was very traumatizing to me to this day, where I'm like, God, please don't let me die of cancer.
Right.
That's just a horrible way to go from her stature. So that was traumatizing.
Right.
And then I also had to raise or helped raise my now new nephew and niece. So again, I'm 17, I'm 5 months pregnant. I just got married, and I now have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old niece and
Wow.
nephew in the house
You
that
playing mommy before you became a mommy.
there we go.
Wow.
There we go.
That's a lot to put on a team. And you
That
working a
was a
full
lot.
time. Wait, were you working
Oh,
full
yes,
time?
yes. I was
Going to
working,
school
working
still?
full, still school, preparing to take the board for
Wow.
cosmetology. Um, but and the real trauma came when my baby came early, because I think
Mm.
I was healthy up until they start changing their living room into a hospice area,
Mm.
and they were bringing the mom home to be in hospice, and they changed the whole area, hospital beds and all. And the day that they were to bring her home, my water broke.
Oh my
It
God.
had a slow leak to where I had to
Mm.
go in the hospital for 2 weeks. And my first child came 2 months early. I was 7 months pregnant. She came, and she was a preemie, 3 month, 3 pounds, 3.5 ounces. And I
Wow.
think it was because of that stress of everything as a young woman,
Yeah.
because the
Yeah.
doctors couldn't figure out what happened.
What caused it?
That what
Yeah.
caused it.
Yeah, that's a lot. You being a teenager, your body's already not fully matured, and then now you have a whole family that you didn't even sign up for. So it's like, wow, that's a lot to put on somebody. And then, like you
And,
said, the trauma of seeing somebody having cancer like that for the first
and let's
time.
not forget, in confession and vulnerability and transparent,
Hmm.
I was drinking and smoking weed.
Okay.
But I was
And
getting
that's
my
one of the
prenatal care,
no-nos.
but I was getting my prenatal care also.
Okay. Okay.
Again, this is why teenagers can't consent. This
Yeah.
is why, you don't even have that perspective. But in all of that, I didn't feel that at the time. I was just like,
Okay.
well, I made my choice. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. I'm in love.
Right.
It's my man.
Right.
Because again, sometimes your gift, but you can't let your gift hold you back, or your past hold you back, just
Right.
because you didn't make good judgment at the time.
I like that.
And then you got to be responsible. And I always was accountable for my choices.
Right. That's what's up. That's what's up. And that's what I have always learned, even as a child or young adult, to handle your business first. Take care of business. And then once you get your business taken care of, then you can have all the fun you want. It's okay. Just keep handling business. It's only when things become imbalanced that life can get chaotic. So you have to maintain that balance. So now let's start. Now that go to where the point now your mother-in-law is in hospice and she passes away.
Mm-hmm.
And then the father-in-law says, okay, you ain't gotta go home, but you got to get, well, you may be already home. Let's put it that, let's reword this. You may be already home, but you got to get up out of here.
Yes.
So he put y'all out.
Yep.
Wow. And
Yeah.
where did you go?
All I could describe it as trailer trash.
Okay.
Trailer trash. This was a whole nother culture shock.
Wow.
I mean, this was the first time, there's a difference between hood and ghetto and project, and then there's trailer trash. That's a whole
Mm.
different thing. So this was when I've seen, like, when you turn on the lights, hundreds of roaches just scrambling past the wall. Girl,
Ugh. I can only
never,
imagine.
never.
Oh my God. And they have lots of diseases
And
from
I
what
have
I
a
hear.
new baby.
Yes.
I have a new
Oh
baby.
my God.
I don't know, it was scary. It was just
I'm
scary.
sure. I'm
So
sure.
we did that. So that motivated him to go in the military, because it was
Okay.
just like, no, and during that time, when he would go to work, I would just go sit over my mom's house with the baby till it's time for him to come home.
You ain't want to keep company with them roaches, huh?
Oh no. They overpowered me. They were
Wow.
everywhere. Yeah, no matter what you did, it was awful. So
I'm
then we
sure.
went into the military. We went into
Okay.
the military.
Okay.
Um, you
So
know.
now, once you got, let's say, into the military, of course, you couldn't go right away. So you had to end it up, once he finished all of his basic camp training and all these things,
Mhm.
you ended up moving you stationed in Colorado Springs.
Yes.
And then by then you were 21, is that correct?
Yes. Around
And
21.
and pregnant with your second child.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more of the trauma that occurred being pregnant at 21, 8 months pregnant, correct?
Yes.
And then you found out some devastating news.
Right. Dun dun dun.
Oh, I wish I had a soundtrack for that one.
This is when Prince Charming become a villain.
Wow.
Right. This is when I first recognized the womanizing and the cheaterization that I seen in my father. Like, how'd I
Mm,
marry him? I marry
mm.
him.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
basically, as I cannot stress enough, our childhood upbringing of what looks like love to us is who we become as teens and adults. It's what we allow as teens and adults. So if we don't get that healing, the hurt and trauma continues. And I cannot stress that enough. Now, first, let's since he was a cheater like your dad, was he also abusive?
He tried it one time. No.
He
I can't say, well,
he
physically.
didn't want that smoke, did he?
No, I don't fall in. Okay, because I think we skipped over. My father was an abuser, and there was a lot of physical violence in the home, and I didn't
Okay.
want to be with my mother. So again, attracting my father, and I wanted to be the nurturer of my mother.
Right.
So, but I had the mouth, so I had a fine mixture of, once you do something to me, you gonna get it.
That revenge.
You
What's
gonna
that song? Who
vengeful,
was that sing
vengeful,
that song?
vengeful,
I bust the
vengeful.
windows out your car. Who was
Yeah,
that singing
yeah,
that song?
yeah,
A lot of us can relate. We can relate.
yeah. It became that because I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have
Hmm.
anywhere to go, and I felt trapped.
So what happened? You couldn't call your mom. What happened when you
Well,
did?
I did. I
What
did.
happened?
So as the dysfunctional abuse continues, so I know, my father's a womanizer. It was out there. It was
Right.
out there. He didn't care. She didn't care, obviously. I mean, she stayed,
Right.
she cared, but whatever.
Yeah.
She chose to stay. Okay. And so I knew she understood. And so I called my mother. I'm distraught. Mom, I'm pregnant. Mom, he cheated on me. He cheated on me. And she's like, hold on. And she put my father on the phone. The
Mm-mm.
womanizer, and all he says is, ha ha ha, my boy, Brewster the Rooster. Oh my
Wow.
God, that was very abusive,
Yeah.
and shocking. So I knew I couldn't go home. I couldn't go home, with my children. So I'm trapped here. He's in the military. I'm not, and I'm
Hmm.
getting ready. I have my oldest daughter's who's 3, and I'm getting
Okay.
ready to have birth to this. So I got to do what I got to do.
Right.
I'm plotting and planning. But at this point, the respect and love and marriage, as far as I'm concerned, is gone. I'm just going to do what I got to do. And I even told him, going that vengeful nature, I can hurt you more with you than I can without you, which I'm not, you shouldn't stay in a relationship if you get to that point.
Wait, let's repeat that. Repeat that again, what you just said.
Right. If you get to the point where you're like, I got to hurt you more with you and without you, and you want to hurt them and kill them and take them out, you don't need to be in that relationship. Or to say, if they want to do that to you, you got to love yourself more than you love the person you trying to hold on to, or that they did something to you. You
There you
got
go.
to go,
There
and
you go.
that was an inflection point for me, is that
Okay.
because I used to go to that point because I seen the rage in my family with my mom and dad fighting, and when he would punish us with the corporal punishment that was too, it was just, again, we're not going to go into all that dysfunction, but again, that is something that was my reaction. Not only
Hmm.
was I rageful and anger from my dysfunctional family that you couldn't do anything with, but now somebody betrayed me when I'm so loving and give you everything, and you betray me when I'm pregnant, and you got the emotions and hormones. And the reason was you couldn't go skating with me.
Wow.
Oh, so that could be a trigger, whatever that tick is, but you can't allow that to take somebody else and then ruin your life.
There you go. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. And I want to stress that, anybody that's going through a dysfunctional relationship, the screaming, the yelling, the cursing, the slamming doors, throwing things, this is abuse. There's no excuse for it. It's abuse. And many of us don't even know until we learn, until we get fed up and say, you know what, this is it. I don't want it anymore. So if anybody's currently physically in danger, call 911. And then I place the National Domestic Hotline on the domestic violence hotline on the screen for anybody who wants to know more about what abuse is. It gives a great description of the cycle of abuse, because it is a cycle where they seem so kind, loving, just being wonderful, that knight in shining armor. And then something traumatic could occur in their minds, in the abuser's mind. They get angry, they're lashing out, they're cussing you out, they may be even trying to hit you. This is another cycle. So from the love bombing to the actual abuse phase, and then back to, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, it won't happen again, I love you, this happened. They make excuses for themselves, and then the victim end up trying to be okay with it again, or believing it. Let's say that, believing that it won't happen again. But usually it keeps happening because dysfunction needs to be healed. So that I needed to get out there. Thank you for sharing that part of your story. So then now your husband is in this back in the military, and then he gets stationed in
Mhm.
Germany. Is that
Mhm.
correct? You
Yes.
guys have to travel. You can't get away right now because you're stuck basically
Right.
with no
Right.
income and
Right.
relying on his income. Okay,
Right.
so
Yeah.
what else? Go ahead.
Because I'm getting ready to have the baby. We had,
Right.
the military hospital. I can't go home. Don't feel safe going home, to more abuse and torture,
Hmm.
So I just got to stick it out until I could work out my plot and my plan and get some money and find a place and can get away with now, which would be two babies.
Mm.
Okay. But in the meantime, he gets stationed. It's always I get stuck and can't go, but God. So
There you go. I love
he
it.
gets yeah, he gets orders to go to Germany.
Okay.
Okay. I can't go because I'm getting ready to have the baby. And then when I have the baby, they find fibroids, two of them the size of an apple and a grapefruit, one in each breast. So the military would not allow me to travel to Germany until after I was able to get those removed.
Hmm.
Okay, so he has to go and travel without me.
Okay.
Okay, so then here's part two of cheaterization.
I like that term. Cheaterization.
Here's part
Cheaterization.
two. Why he knows I have to stay here, got two new baby, getting fibroids removed. At this time, this is 87. They would still remove the tumors and have to send them to a lab to determine whether they were benign or malignant, you
Right.
know. And so once I got over to Germany, they had anybody familiar with the military, they will give you advance money. And if you have a family, you have to get housing and get stuff set up. So they'll give you advance money for the purpose of setting up your dependents. It's a dependent allowance. He was over there spending all that up.
Ooh.
They also have like a resource because we were on military housing. So all you really had to do was go down to their storage and pick out like the couch or beds and crib, to furnish the home. That wouldn't have
Oh,
been a cost. You just had to go do it.
okay.
Um, when I got in with me and my babies, I came to an empty home, only with bed in the bedroom where he was sleeping.
Oh, well, he needed that one for his cheaterizations.
No other room. Like you didn't know had a kid that need a bed. You didn't know, because
Wow.
we didn't have our furnishings yet because they were with me in
Yeah.
Colorado. So it's like you couldn't set this up until. So no trifling again, trifling, and he
Hmm.
spent up all the money. So so thank God I had some money to travel with. It wasn't much, maybe. It wasn't quite 1,000, if that. Again, we're young. I'm 21.
Right.
I
Well,
easily,
that's still a lot back then.
and I just had the baby. Right? It's just
Right.
whatever. I get off. And so, get over to Germany. He act like he don't even have a family. I have to go out and buy food, groceries, and milk and stuff for the baby. With the hundreds I came with, like he was just a mess. He was a mess.
Wow.
So he cheated then, he cheated right before. So again, I found out he cheated. We were there for a couple of years, and then the Gulf War happened. I found out he cheated. I was couldn't get away because he
Mm.
got sent to the Gulf War and they weren't sending everybody back home. So now I gotta wait till he come back.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, then we came to Virginia.
okay.
We got stationed in Virginia in Fort Eustis. And
Okay.
yeah, that's ultimately where we ended up divorcing.
Okay. So now I wanted you to bring up the fact of when when you finally decided to leave. That
Mhm.
scenario of the story he gave you as to when you finally got fed
Mhm.
up. What was that like? Tell us what happened.
When the woman's fed up part. When the
Mm-hmm.
woman's fed up. Okay. So
That part.
what had happened was, okay, he was doing his philandering, just blatant philandering. You had an intuition, what's going on, it's happened before, whatever, but no proof.
Right.
We had our home because we got it with his VA loan. He's still in the
Okay.
military. He paid the majority of the mortgage with his money.
Okay.
I always had to supplement because he was not financially responsible
Mm-hmm.
or selfish. I'm gonna go spend mine. He wasn't a not now. I'm gonna give it to my father. At least he would bring the money home to mama first. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Right.
So
Right.
we didn't want for that, but this one, no. You know.
Mm.
So so on one of his again, a womanizing drunkard occasions not coming home, he decided he wanted to come home around 8 or 9 in the morning. I mean, this ain't even 6. I mean, sun is up.
Breakfast is being served.
Up, right? And so he comes home and I'm mad, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, like I wasn't nothing nice. I wasn't nothing nice.
Well,
Don't y'all
I mean, that's to be expected. You are
right,
in a situation where you're being betrayed.
right.
Who would be able to find it within themselves to be nice, except for someone who believes in the hope that this man is going to change? That's the only person who will
Or
continue to be
yeah,
nice.
or somebody who's scared to confront or
Scared,
scared,
yes.
fear. I think it's usually based in
It's
fear, no
usually
matter
fear,
what. It's usually based in
and
some
not
type of
seeing a
fear.
way out, not seeing a
Right,
way out
right,
because of the situation. But yeah, go ahead.
so or rejection. Or so anyway, so he has the bright idea to explain to me where he was and why he was out until 8 in the morning. And it was pretty much because I was too drunk to make it home. So I went to this place. It was closer. Nope. It was way past our house, way past our house. And he's taking me here. So then we go into where he was, and it was pretty much a crack house.
Wow.
Pretty much there's naked body. You can smell the stench, people laying out, women's breasts out. They just laid out. Everybody looked like they passed out. And I'm sitting there like, who am I married to? It's the villain. It's the villain. It was
Yeah.
like, who is this? And you're thinking that you're bringing me here to explain
So you
why
could
you did not
understand.
come home till 8 in the morning.
And so he thought you were going to be like, oh, you were
Oh,
at the crack house.
no,
Okay. That
no,
we fine now, boo boo. We fine. We fine. Go ahead, enjoy yourself at
no,
that crack house.
no, that didn't happen. So what had happened was we go back home. I'm fired up.
I know
I'm
you are.
fired up. Again, rage coming from childhood and over, womanizing. I'm not gonna be my mother, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so pretty much we had 3 vehicles. He had a Corvette and he had a motorcycle, and I had a 1980 slant back Cadillac Seville, and it had brown sugar on it. It was the color of brown sugar, light brown sugar on the top, dark brown sugar on the bottom. And back in the 80s and 90s, you had those sparkly plates that you get from the flea market. It said brown sugar. I'm still brown sugar, but only men know about that. But
All
anyway,
right now.
I've been brown sugar forever.
All right now.
I like brown sugar, and it's the family car, right?
Right.
Nice. So we come back. I'm mad, boy. I'm fired up. I walk up that driveway and I kick his bike over. Blam! Kick it over.
You were
The
having a
mirror,
waiting to exhale moment.
oh, it need to do something. Something I needed a release.
Okay.
I seen the bike. I kicked that bike over. And if y'all know anything about bikers and they bikes, try not to drop your bike, boy. That bike, I kicked that bike over, and he had the round mirrors that stuck up. They flung off when the bike. It's not funny. We are not encouraging violence.
I'm twisting. I'm
No,
twisted.
I'm used to.
No, we're not
Well, listen,
encouraging. We're
at this
encouraging
time, yeah.
empowerment. We're
So
encouraging empowerment.
kick over the bike. So he's like, bitch, bitch. So he runs in the garage and he gets a crowbar. Again, he's a mechanic. So he gets the crowbar and he goes to my Cadillac. He started beating the hell out my brown sugar tag, beating on the car. I'm like, what? So I run in the house and I get a big butcher knife. I still have it. I ain't gonna show y'all, but got his name.
Butcher knife.
His name's engraved on it.
Ooh.
Girl, I went and got the butcher knife. So now I go to the vet and I start cutting up the seat. It was like Madeira and the insides coming out.
You basically lost your man.
Girl, it was on. It was on and popping. So then when he see me cutting up the vet, I already messed up the bike. He messed up the cat. And it's foolish. It's foolery. It's foolery. Young people, it's foolery. So now we tearing up our own stuff. So now I'm cutting up the Corvette. So now he coming bitch. So I had the knife and it's just like, getting that stand. What you see me with this knife? So he runs into it, pokes himself, and then calls the cops on himself. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
I love how he ran. That is amazing. He ran into your knife. That's so
right. Who does that?
Yeah.
So then he's the victim. I'm calling the EMT. He calls the ambulance, but no blood, not cutting nothing.
Okay.
Then when they tell him he got to pay, he refused to go in the ambulance. So then they in the EMT's call. So of course they call the cops. This when I first learned in Virginia, they don't play that. Oh, somebody called 911 and now somebody get to walk away. If they can't figure out who the aggressor or the victim is, you both going. So guess what? We both got locked up. I had enough time. I called my babysitter, come get my kids. You don't want to be involved with DCF, which what I do now. We got locked up. He's in the military. Here's the other part of, you don't love nobody more than you love yourself because
I love that. Repeat that one more time. Repeat that.
You don't love anybody more than you love yourself. And that inflection point came when we got locked up. He's in the military. He's military property. Jag came and got him and he left my butt sitting up in there. He left me sitting up in there. He sure did. But God, because, and this was, again, he'd been out. So this Saturday night, the courts are open. I would have been in the holding cell for Sunday till Monday, till first appearances. Right. Wow. And he's leaving me in there. Right. And so, but for the magistrate, he happened to come in after that. And he's like, you must be living right. Because he's like, and I explained it to him and he let me out on my own recognizance. Nice. And that's why I was like, it's time to go. It's time to go. I'm mad about this Negro and he gonna leave me here. And I could have lost my life messing with him. And then you gonna leave me locked up and you still gonna be out here doing whatever you want to do.
Absolutely.
You can't, you're not driving me to do that. So I'm like, done. So even at the done, there's still a part after that because again, I'm in my choir. I'm trying to be in church. I'm trying to get right. I'm trying to, figure out, get rid of the raid, get it together. Right. And part of our sentence, because he was in the military, they let Jag handle it. And so part of if we went to marriage counseling, then the charges would be dropped.
And what is Jag?
That's the military legal for the military.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So they pretty much helped you out.
Right. The military attorney. So if anybody in the military get in trouble, they're the ones that take their cases and represent them and make sure, they'll be the trials or give them sentencing because they belong to the military.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. Okay. And so pretty much they order us to do marriage counseling. And if we went through the marriage counseling, then the charges would be dismissed. My charges would have been aggravated battery with a knife, with a weapon.
Okay.
Today, this is a felony.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And then going forward, but coming back, again, this is why I'm an attorney and did criminal defense and understand crimes of passion and felony in
Mm-hmm.
your life could be just taken just like that.
Mm.
Don't love anybody more than you love yourself, to put yourself in a position, even in a passion, a crime of passion, a
Right.
reaction to
Right.
a betrayal, or you think somebody did something to you, you better think about how it could take your life just like that.
I love that. I love that.
Okay.
Thank you for
And
sharing.
because of that, that's when I was like, I got to go.
Right.
At this point, I gotta go.
There you
I
go.
really gotta go.
I love that. And see, you make an impact on people who may be in a situation similar to what you have gone through. And they, like you, we spoke on it earlier, maybe afraid, maybe unable to do anything based on the finances and things like that. The fact that you were able to empower yourself enough to get out of that situation at such a young age. You were determined to not stay in that mess. And that is very impactful for somebody who may need to hear it, because somebody needs to know, there's hope, there is possibilities. So we are at the hour of our show, and you gave a whole lot. And as I said before, because there's still a whole lot more, we would need to do a part two, because this story is just the beginning or just the middle of Shawn's life. Shawn has a lot more that needs to be shared. Thank you for sharing your life, Shawn. Now, I usually ask questions, but I'm going to wait until part two, next week's segment, because I want them to see the full you and have those questions answered from the you after your experiences. So,
Okay.
but in the meantime, as Shawn was mentioning, and I put it up there on the screen, if anybody is in need of any help, like psychologically, you could contact betterhelp.com. They are in different states throughout the U.S. I know, I'm not sure if they're outside of U.S. The financial aid.org, I was bringing that out there because Shawn attended school, and this is some of the help that she got. If somebody is unable to care for themselves and need to go back and get some schooling to get into the work world, that's another possibility for financial aid. Then legal aid, that's the free public help, public defender, correct,
Yes,
Shawn?
for civil cases, they will help the indigent, people who can't afford to hire an attorney to deal with things such as divorces. That's was a motivator for me through the divorce, which we'll touch on, I guess, next time.
Okay.
But I needed legal aid. Again, he had the military, so I couldn't afford it on my own, so I went to legal aid.
Okay.
So they will help you with dissolutions of marriages and divorces, or landlord tenant or contracts, or if you have some type of civil suit where you feel like you were wronged, but it's not criminal, then you can ask for help with legal aid.
Okay. Thank you so much, Shawn. Your story was very, very, you exposed, empowered, and impacted, but that's just the first part. You guys got to come back next week to hear the rest of this story. It's fascinating. But before we end the show, I am asking each of you to please sign up on my website at www.marvinasims.com, and feel free to purchase my books while you're browsing. Find and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I'm at Marvina Sims, or you can find me under We Win Queendom. And my final ask is that you value and take good care of yourself. As Shawn said it earlier, you cannot love anyone else more than you love yourself. So you got to be able to do that by sincerely loving yourself. So be sure to return back here next Sunday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time to watch Share My Life TV. I am Marvina Sims, author, advocate, empowerment coach, and queen, goddess warrior of We Win Queendom. My spirit showed up here today to either irritate, eradicate, or edify yours. Brittle, Never Broken is not only the title of my impactful memoir, but it is the experiences of all of our victorious lives. This is a daily reminder to those in need all over the globe. You were born for a time such as this, but only you get to decide what the this is for you. Remember, you deserve the best, which is why you will only be accepting words of encouragement and uplifting attitudes via validation, confirmation, and revelation. See you next Sunday on Share My Life TV. So if you or anyone you know have a story about something that happened that was devastating to you and or your loved ones, yet you bounce back, becoming even better and living your best life, sharing your life could help save someone else's who may be experiencing something similar to you. Send a message to me on Facebook or Instagram directly to me, Marvina Sims. Remember, our goal is to expose, empower, and impact to save lives. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.